So my question for this segment is the pick actually going to be Mac Jones? Because right now he's sitting at minus 300. I'm getting a little scared. I'm sweating a little bit about it. I do not want to see this at all. I'm going to be pretty bothered if the pick is Mac Jones. Not to say he's not a good player, but he's not a player that you trade up 3 first-round picks to go acquire. That's my take on him. And Aiden, we talked during the season, and we were talking about, hey, Mac Jones could potentially be a guy at 12, and not even at 12, but in the teens, depending on when the Niners were going to end up drafting. And you liked him a lot, and I know that you do not like the idea of taking him at 3 at all. So I'll let you lead this off.
I think you hit it right on the head. Please, God, no. Please don't give up 3 first-round picks to get to number 3 and pick a guy you probably could have gotten at 12. I don't think that it's going to happen, though. I think Kyle likes to mess with the media, and he said something really interesting in that first press conference. He was like, elite traits, elite traits, elite traits. Mac Jones does not have elite traits. That's why I think it's going to be Fields or Lance, but I mean, there's always the possibility that the guy who fell in love with Kirk Cousins is going to go get Mac Jones. But even if Mac Jones is the pick, Matt and I agree on this. I think Mac would work out in the short term. I think he would probably be the leading candidate to be offensive rookie of the year, given that I feel like he can stay healthy and you don't have Nick Mullins throwing passes back there. But really summed up in 3 words, please God, no.
I love it. No, I think you're right that he would perform well, I think, early on. But it's just, I mean, it's what we've talked a lot about it throughout these episodes, talking about all the quarterbacks. It makes way more sense. You have the chance to be so much better with a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance that it's one of those things where I would be so frustrated because it's not like I'm questioning Kyle Shanahan as a coach, but is your system really only going to work with guys that aren't able to be a dual threat player, aren't able to do this? And I don't think that's the case. But if you take Mac Jones at 3 over Justin Fields and Trey Lance, that's what that's saying. You're saying my offense is this. We have the other athletes out there, but like we want a like, I don't know what to call it, like not a pocket quarterback, but like a system quarterback. We want this guy that's going to go in there and just, we're going to tell him what to do. He's going to throw the ball. He's going to get the ball into the hands of the weapons, opposed to kind of coming at it where our quarterback is also a weapon. We've seen, and the problem is we've seen so many guys like that just dominate the league. We saw Josh Allen look tremendous this year. Aaron Rodgers has done it for so long, even though he's not talked about like a weapon of a quarterback, even though he absolutely is the way that he extends plays. But Mac Jones isn't going to be out there extending plays. There's no question about that. I'm sorry. But, maybe he has great footwork or whatever, but that can only take you so far in terms of just your physical traits. And his physical traits are not on par with Trey Lance or Justin Fields. So, Ricky, do you think there's a chance that Mac Jones is the pick?
I mean, I think there is a chance. I think Aiden brought up a great point with Kirk Cousins, and I think another one is Matt Ryan, who Shanahan's work with, who we kind of see similar stuff from. And if he wants to just be familiar, go with what's comfortable, go with what he knows, I think Mac Jones might be the pick then. But in terms of being the most NFL ready, I mean, I think if you bring in Mac Jones, you're going to have the same thing that you would with Trey Lance with, like, it's going to take a little bit of time. Mac Jones faced no rush at Alabama. Like, yeah, he played SEC competition. Alabama's O-line was stacked for him. And he just didn't face that many attempts under rush. And I think that is going to affect him when he comes to the league. So I think the NFL rush is going to come a lot faster, and it's going to take some time for him to get used to. So I think I don't think he's quite as ready to plug and play as a Justin Fields is. I just don't understand necessarily picking him over Fields or Trey Lance personally.
Yeah, and also I'll say this, and some 49er fans might really disagree with me. That's totally fine, but I think if you had a legit quarterback competition next year and you have Mac Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo, which will not be the case because if they take Mac Jones, Jimmy's gone. Like I think that's pretty clear. But if you had those two guys in the building going into next year, I do not think there's a chance that Mac Jones is able to beat out Jimmy Garoppolo. And I know everyone right now thinks, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is terrible. He's such an awful quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely a limited quarterback, but let's not act like he's not going to be able, like he doesn't understand the system and wasn't really good in 2019 in terms of the production that he brought to the field. And we saw the difference of having him and not having him, with only talking offense, not talking about the Bosa's injuries or anything like that. But if you're just talking how the offense looked from 2019 to 2020, it was very different because either Jimmy wasn't healthy or you had Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard back there, and that was just absolutely not cutting it. So I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo would lose a quarterback battle against Mac Jones. And I understood the pick at 12 too. Like before, when we were talking about this a long time ago, if you take Mac Jones at 12, I was like, don't love it, but I totally understand it because you take a quarterback, you have the rookie contract, you can stack the roster, you can win there. But you don't move up to then take the guy that should be 5th on your draft board at 3rd overall. That doesn't make any sense. Like that's not how franchises win. And we've seen a lot of guys get overdrafted at quarterback. It's okay to get overdrafted, but when you get overdrafted the quarterbacks that are better in your class, that's different. When you're taking the 5th rated quarterback, which he is on my board, I don't know how you guys have it shaped out, but he's the 5th rated guy on my board. If you take him over the 3rd and the 4th, or in my opinion, the 2nd and the 3rd, that is just not a good idea. That is not a recipe for success by any means. So that's where I kind of have a big issue with it. But you can start this out, Aiden. Who do you think is going to be the pick, and how would you kind of rate the chances of all the guys landing?
I think it's going to be Fields, but I actually have a question for Ricky. Where is Baker on your, like Baker coming out? He's a Browns fan. Where is Baker coming out on this list of 5? So I know where I
when he's coming. Wait, when he's coming out of college,
when he's coming out of college, because he went number 1 overall. Obviously, he's going to be behind.
I mean, I'm a Baker Mayfield fan, but I would have him at number 2, personally.
You would have him above Fields?
Yeah, coming out of college, just coming out of college, and not knowing anything that I know about the pros. Baker Mayfield posted as a junior the highest quarterback rating that we've seen since before. I think Trevor Lawrence broke it, or someone broke it this year. But Baker had that as a junior and was a 3rd-round prospect. He had a 1,000-yard rusher, threw for 3,000 yards while having 2,000-yard running backs in his backfield. And then the next year came back with a full new cast and put up 5,000 yards in the air. I think his touchdown turnover ratio was good enough, or was elite NFL level. And then I also put a lot of faith in Lincoln Riley's system. I think it prepares quarterbacks especially to make that transition in the NFL. I think it relies on a lot of pre-snap reads and like right after the snap, immediate reads. So that's where I would have taken him personally, just with all these guys. I think it would be close. And knowing what I know with how he progressed in the NFL and everything, I'd probably take Lawrence, Wilson, and Fields over him right now.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because like I've never talked to a Browns fan and like accurately rate Baker almost kind of coming out, and it's obviously different than now because Jimmy pre ACL is a completely different quarterback than right now. Obviously, college to the pros is different, but I guess a roundabout answer, Matt, I would say it's probably different than it was 2 or 3 days ago. 50% Fields, 30% Lance, 20% Mac Jones.
I think that's fair. Ricky, what are your odds?
I think it's 40% Justin Fields, 40% Trey Lance, 20% Mac Jones. I do believe that the Mac Jones is a smokescreen type of thing, and I can see the fit, but I think those athletes, and when he has that comment when they first make the trade is like, we're going after an elite athlete, I don't think Mac Jones aligns with that. And I think Trey Lance or Justin Fields could go to that.
And that's the thing that's kind of hard to tell with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan is, what do you believe? What do you not believe? The way that I've kind of decided how I view like either statements or, reports or whatever it is I don't believe many of the media reports that come out there. I really don't. I mean, looking back at what the 49ers have done, everything is a surprise. Didn't know about Buckner, didn't know about the trade up to 3. And where you have like some of these reporters where, Adam Schefter says, I think it's going to be Mac Jones. He's saying he thinks, And then 5 minutes before the draft, whoever the pick is, he's going to say who the pick is and then get all the credit for getting the pick right. So he has nothing to lose. Like he's just making new like stories every day. It's not like he's like, oh, Schefter can't get this wrong. Like he's Adam Schefter. No, he's just saying what he thinks, and it shouldn't like. And I think he even like backtracked on it too. So there's been so many times where we just don't know. We shouldn't take what the media is saying as what is a possibility. The biggest reason why I think it's going to be Justin Fields, and I would say I'll give it a 75% chance, in my opinion, that it's Justin Fields. So much higher than your guys's. But the reason I think it's Justin Fields is because of the comments that when he talks about Josh Allen, he talks about a guy that, has progressed and he really liked Josh Allen as an athlete. And like, you look at all he's done and how much he's got better at throwing the deep ball, which could also make you think about Trey Lance. But for me, it makes me think about Justin Fields in that sense, where big dude, like if I'm looking at this class, I think the guy that will look the closest to Josh Allen is Justin Fields. And so that's why I just expect them to take him. I've said this many times, I would also love it like a Trey Lance draft pick. I think that's super cool. I'll give that a 25% chance. I will give Mac Jones a 0% chance to be drafted. That's how shocked that would be. And wow. I know it's like, it's 0% and you shouldn't have 0% because there's all the stories. I 100% think it's a smokescreen. And one of the biggest reasons why is Chris Sims comes out today. Do you guys know what his mock draft had Mac Jones and Justin Fields going?
Probably like 3 and 25.
3 and 32. So you're telling me that Kyle Shanahan's best friend, who has been notorious for putting out fake stories about quarterbacks and wide receivers and whoever it is, just to make Kyle have a chance, like trying to like stir up the media and like get other teams to think that Kyle's not interested in guys, isn't like completely doing this. 3 and 32. I don't know. That to me, that is like a huge sign. Like every story being, oh, it's Mac Jones, it's Mac Jones, Mac Jones. That just makes me think that there's like no chance it's Mac Jones. Because since Kyle and John have taken over, it was one of the first things they said when they were hired. We don't want stuff to leak, because the Niners used to leak stuff all the time about 5 years ago. Like, every pick that was happening. It was like the Giants a few years ago where the Bears jumped in front of them and took Leonard Floyd. I don't know if you guys know that, because like someone took a picture of their draft board for like the guys that they were targeting. So everyone knew that they were that they wanted Leonard Floyd. So then someone traded one pick in front of them and took him. They didn't want that kind of stuff to ever happen. They also just don't want teams to kind of guess what they're trying to build. So it makes perfect sense. Oh, and also, in my opinion, I think Justin Fields should definitely go before Zach Wilson. I think you guys believe that as well. And I think there's a lot of I think that early on in the draft process, there was many people that were way higher on Zach Wilson. And now that it's kind of like unfolded and we've kind of seen everything, a lot of people are kind of saying, hey, I think Justin Fields is a quarterback too. And if you go back 4 years ago before this season, Justin Fields has been a number 2 since they were in high school, since they were juniors, seniors in high school. So I think it should be Justin Fields. I think it makes the most sense. I think that it's going to allow the 49ers to just have a different offense and really have a just more like a better overall offense. You're going to be able to stretch the field so much more. You're also going to have a quarterback that you can run the ball with, and that outside zone scheme with the tackles they have with George Kittle, with Kyle Juszczyk, it could be really special. And I love the idea of putting Justin Fields in that, and that's why I think there's a 75% chance, because I think that is the most likely spot that we see him go. And I just, to me, I would be really shocked if it wasn't Justin Fields. And then if it wasn't Trey Lance not being Justin Fields, I would be completely floored. I don't think there's a chance that that's the case. And I guess I just think that I feel like I'm trying to put myself in Kyle's shoes, and I don't think that Kyle's going to do that. And I would be so floored if that happens. But
I don't
know.
You in a room with Kyle Shanahan right now, just to double down, make sure, because you just convinced me. I want Justin Fields. I already wanted Justin Fields, but now I think he's going to be the pick.
Ricky, you think my 0 is too low?
I think your 0 is too low just for the Niners and for how this whole draft process goes around. I mean, Mitch Trubisky rose up the thing after, not playing a game in the very similar way that Mac Jones has. And then he got taken super early. He got traded up for. I never thought that was going to happen. And so I don't want to say that something like that's impossible, because I think there's a minuscule chance that the Niners might mess up or do something like that. But I don't know. I think 0 is a little low, but I'm very confident that it's not going to be Mac Jones.
Yeah, all right. So I think that'll do it for this segment, just kind of talking about Mac Jones. This is your first time checking us out. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Going to be bringing a ton of draft content throughout the whole draft weekend, so make sure to do that.